Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am Wels Knight and I want to welcome you to Magic the Gathering Arena. I'm going to be honest, this game has taken over my life. Magic has consumed me, and I am so excited to finally be bringing you this game. If you are not familiar with Magic the Gathering Arena, it is basically a digital, free-to-play version of Magic the Gathering, created by Wizards of the Coast. There is, of course, a link in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. It's available there. If you have not heard of Magic the Gathering, what rock have you been living under? Okay, that's probably not fair. If you really haven't heard of Magic the Gathering, it is essentially a trading card or collectible card game in the same vein as stuff like Gwent, Yu-Gi-Oh!, the Pokemon trading card game, Hearthstone, etc., etc., except it's been around for about 25 years, and honestly, having played pretty much all of them is by far my favorite of the group. So, it's important to note, Magic the Gathering Arena, MTG Arena, does have a tutorial if you start playing it, and honestly, the tutorial is fairly good. However, it's also a little bit over an hour long, and there's a lot of fluff in it. So I did actually record the whole tutorial on a second account, but as I was watching it back and stuff like that, I just really wasn't happy with that video, and I figured I wanted to do kind of some introduction videos to this game for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, that are a lot shorter and more concise, and kind of get to the point and are a lot more digestible because they'll be much shorter. So this is the first one. I plan to have 2 other videos coming out today that also cover other basic stuff like terminology and abilities and blah, 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 blah. So without further ado, let's kind of get into it. So first of all, you need to understand sort of a tiny bit of the lore, the story of Magic the Gathering. Basically, the idea is that all players are wizards called planeswalkers, and when you duel one of your opponents, when you play against an opponent, it is ultimately a giant spell-slinging duel of fireballs and creature summoning and blah, 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 blah. And the reason that's important is because it basically leads to a lot of the terminology for cards and things like that. In actual practice, in reality, in a game, you and your opponent both start with 20 life, and the goal is to reduce their life to 0 before they reduce yours to 0. You do that by casting spells. Spells are essentially any card that is not a land. You pay for spells using mana, and mana is created through the use of lands. Now that's a whole lot of stuff. So let's back up and break that down into much simpler terms. Basically, you play lands like these to generate mana. You then use that mana to pay for spells, which you use to kill your opponent. So if we look at any of these spells, and these are all different spells, and they come in a whole bunch of different colors, all of these will have a mana cost in the upper right-hand corner. This, for example, costs 1 white mana, because in the upper right-hand corner, it has a single white mana. If we go over a bit, this guy costs 4 mana, and that is 1 white mana and 3 mana of any color for a total of 4. This guy, way over here, would be 1 mana of any color and 1 red mana for a total mana cost of 2, or a converted mana cost is the actual term for it. So basically, you generate mana using lands, you use that to pay for spells, you use the spells to kill your opponent. Now, there are 5 different colors of mana, and all of them are, they all have their own kind of general strengths and weaknesses. The colors are white, blue, black, red, and green. I'll talk more about the actual strengths and weaknesses a bit later. Going back to lands, if you, well, they don't say it anymore, but back in the day, it used to say tap this land to create 1 mana. Some of these still do. This little one, like Memorial to War, you see it has like this little arrow symbol, this like little flippy arrow that means tap. What tapping is you basically turn the card sideways, and that represents the card taking an action for that turn. The reason I want to bring that up is because I want to go over very quickly the basic, a basic turn in Magic. So basically, when your turn starts, you have an upkeep phase. And during that upkeep phase, all of your tapped stuff untaps. There may also be certain abilities or effects or things that activate as well. You then draw a card. That's your draw phase. After you draw a card, you jump into your first main phase, and during your first main phase, you can cast spells, or you can play a land, or both. You then go into combat. During combat, you may attack your opponent. Pretty straightforward. And then after combat, you go to your second main phase, which is just like your first main phase, except it happens after combat. Finally, after your second main phase, you go into the end phase. And basically what happens during the end phase is there may be certain abilities or effects that activate, but for the most part, not a whole lot is generally going to happen there. Your opponent might be able to say, during your end phase, I do this, or things like that. But that's complicated stuff. We'll get into that later. After your end phase, it is then your opponent's turn. They do their whole turn, and then your turn starts. And that's basically the whole thing in a nutshell. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. You may cast instant spells. Let's not look for instant lands. You may cast instant spells at any time. Doesn't have to be during your first or second main phase, as long as you have the mana for it. When you tap something, it doesn't untap until your next turn. You can, when you are attacked, you can block with any of your creatures that aren't tapped. You draw 7 cards at the start of every game, and you can mulligan if necessary, which means you could say, I don't like this hand, I'm going to mulligan. And then instead of, basically when you mulligan, you just draw 1 less card than the time before. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff with the economy and wild cards and stuff. I'll probably get into that sort of thing later. But that's basically the whole thing in a nutshell. There's other concepts and things that are, out there, but I think for kind of a beginner's primer, we can probably just sort of call it good there. So let's talk about the different game modes, because there's a whole bunch of them. You've got Direct Challenge, which is basically Battle a Friend, specifically. That's new. Singleton, you'll have a rotating set of game modes. Draft will rotate the set. The set is basically what different things cards are coming from. So like you'll see this one has a symbol sort of on the far right, like my mouse is hovering over it right now, that little symbol. This one has a different symbol. This one has a different symbol, etc., etc. Each of those symbols represents a set, and sets rotate every so often. When we're looking at modes, there are different game modes. I'm not going to go over every single one in detail, but you'll have some that will rotate and some that will always stick around. Constructed Event is always around. You can hit play and kind of look through them all. Actually, kind of looks like we don't have... Yeah, here we go. So you've got play, which is like your basic ladder play. You've got competitive, which is basic ladder, but it's best of 3 instead of basic 1. Singleton is a rotating event. It's a special limitation where basically you can only have 1 of any given card in your deck. Constructed event is best of 3, but there's a buy-in and then better rewards. You've got competitive draft, you've got competitive constructed. There's a whole bunch of different game modes that you can take advantage of. For now, we're just going to play the basic ladder best of 1 just for the purposes of this video, but we can get into other stuff later. So I'm going to grab a deck. We'll go play, basic. We'll do this deck right here that I just picked. And then we'll jump into a game and kind of explain all of this stuff. And then after the game is done, I'm going to quickly cover the 5 colors and sort of what their strengths and weaknesses are. So we are playing an actual opponent. There are no AI opponents outside of the tutorial. So we've got a basic hand. I've got 3 mana in hand from my lands. And I've got some other stuff. I am very happy with this. This is a great hand. All right, we're playing blue. So I'll play a land and pass the turn. I'm going to not play my bodyguard just because I'd rather play him later to protect some of my other stuff. Oh, that's highly unfortunate. All right. I will cast a creature. It's now my second main phase. I don't have anything else I can do because when a creature enters the field, it has what's called summoning sickness, which means it can't do anything until the following turn. It's basically like a delay, if you will. Are you going to zap my guy? Oh, Thought Erasure. Okay, lovely. So he gets to basically pick one of my cards and get rid of it from my hand. This is something that blue is very good at. This maybe going to be... This is not necessarily a great matchup for us, and turn 2 Search for Escante is just brutal. This is a very, very powerful card. This is one of the best blue cards that exists. But that's all right. Wow, got rid of Dauntless Bodyguard, huh? That's a very interesting choice, I must say. That makes me think he has a board wipe of some sort. But I don't really care if I lose Danitha, so I'll play into it a little bit. We'll see what he's got. Red, blue, black. Could have Ritual of Soot, which would kill a lot of this stuff. Could also be running counters. See, this is where we kind of get into the, yeah, this stuff is complicated sort of aspect of things. I'm going to play Quendi. Probably going to get countered. Yep. Okay, that's fine. This is, there's a lot of strategy involved in this and kind of knowing, like, what your opponent is thinking and what they're not thinking. I'll attack with both. We'll get in there for some damage. So he's definitely running counter spells. Ritual of Soot. Okay, that's fine. We'll get a Knight of Grace out. Then it's his turn. I'm really hoping to draw into something a bit more useful, but we'll see. Thankfully, I do have... Ooh, that's really good. I'm going to play Radiant Destiny. Are you holding another counter? Nope. All right. There we go. And we will attack. Lightning Strike. Okay. That's fine. Play our land. This Settle the Wreckage is an amazing card, but not going to be very useful because he saw it earlier, so he's not going to play into it. He knows I've got it. Well, he does have the Doom Whisperer. He's not going to attack if I don't have a counter, though. Ooh. Yes. That doesn't leave enough mana open for Settle, but I think we're going to do it anyway. Since he's kind of tapped out at the moment, I think that's the right call. He knows that he can attack because I don't have the mana to pay for Settle the Wreckage. But you can kind of see some of the back and forth here, playing spells, kind of playing around your opponent, trying to get your opponent to do stuff or not do stuff. He did not attack. Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll play ourselves a Dauntless Bodyguard. And I'll tap you. And then, do we go for it? I think the answer is no, not yet. Next turn, we're going to get a little bit of a boost. He knows that I'm holding this card. So he's not going to be attacking unless he's got a counter spell to block it. And that's fine. Rawl. Okay. That's problematic. How many instants? 1, 2, 3, okay. He's got 4, so he could kill one of my knights here if he wanted to. Which one are you protecting? That's fine. I'll let him zap that. So we could kill Rahl. Oh, he's got a second search for his content. Okay. Ah, Knight of Malice is good. Okay. So I think we will go... And I'm going to attack him. He will probably block 1. That's fine. We'll deal the damage.
Well, that was unpleasant.
And then we'll bring out Knight of Malice. And then pass turn. Him having these, this card and this card are very tough to play around because he basically just keeps drawing. He's able to look for something that he wants, basically, which will help him out of this situation. I'd say we're actually at kind of a disadvantage here, but thought erasure. Okay, that's fine. He can get rid of my settled wreckage if he feels so inclined. Oh, Thief of Sanity. That is highly unfortunate. Okay, that is not helpful. I mean, he knows that I have this. I guess we're going to pass and hope that he doesn't get something useful. We're probably going to lose this game. We're not in a great spot. He has a significant advantage over me at the moment. But we'll play it out and see what happens. There's things I could draw that would save me. Thought erasure. Yep, he takes my settle the wreckage. That's not surprising at all. He's at 14 life. If he attacks with both... I can't block it because these guys can fly, so they can just fly straight over me. That's abilities. We'll talk more about abilities in another video later today. And this Thief of Sanity has a great ability. He gets to play Dauntless Bodyguard. Okay, so he'll probably protect his thief, I imagine. Or maybe... Now he protected his Doom Whisper. Yeah, I am beat because I am just drawing lands right now, which do not help me at all. Probably going to... I think I probably have like a 10% chance of winning this game right now. I don't know what I would draw that would save me, but... I think I am about to be defeated. What did he get? I got rid of my Quendi. That was one of my ways out. And now we got a history. Yeah, I'm dead. I got nothing. I suppose... Yeah, I'm definitely dead. I don't think I have a second Settle the Wreckage in this deck. Oh, that's pretty good. That helps. Are you holding a counter? That helps a lot, actually. Okay, so that makes all of my creatures tougher. Not tough enough that I can take his Doom Whisperer. So I'm still not tough enough to actually attack. He could block me and kill my guys right now. But it also allows me to draw 2 cards at the start of every turn. So it's not unreasonable. I could I basically got like one turn to draw something useful. Otherwise, he can just attack and kill me. He's probably going to attack with these 4 right now. Also means that this card will allow him to basically steal my stuff and play it, which is really less than ideal. This is like a pretty bad matchup for my deck, honestly. But we'll see. What'd you get? Well, you know, okay. And then what else did you take? Oh, Lyra. Lovely. Yep. Well, that was one of my potential ways out. I am... Yeah, that's not going to do it. All right, so I will concede. I am beaten. I have no answers to win, but hey, that's kind of a basic game. Back and forth like that. So really quick, before we wrap this up, let's talk about the 5 colors and what they're generally good at. There are exceptions to every rule, of course, but basically the 5 colors are white, blue, black, red, and green. White is kind of good at a lot of things. White has a lot of very efficient or versatile creatures, often lots of abilities, lots of kind of relatively cheap-ish creatures that are good in other ways. They give you a lot of flexibility and versatility. They're very efficient in a lot of, very often. They're also very good at removal and wipes. They have some of the best removal in the game. Stuff like, well, let's see. Stuff like Settle the Wreckage is fantastic. You've got your Cleansing Novas. There's also Ixalan's Binding, and there's a whole bunch of really good removal and board wipe stuff from white. Lots of good white stuff. Blue is good at disruption. They're the only color that has access to counter spells, which are basically spells that allow you to say to your opponent, "I'm sorry, Dave, I'm afraid you can't do that." Which basically just, they completely counter stuff. So your opponent plays a creature, you play something like this Essence Scatter, and you just say, no, you don't play that creature, and it just goes to the graveyard instead. They also have a lot of stuff that sends things back to your opponent's hand, what are called bounce spells. And they also have probably more stuff than any other color that generates card advantage. Lots and lots and lots of draw spells in blue. Things that'll say like, draw 2 cards, like Divination, or draw 3 cards, or draw 4 cards, or whatever. Blue is a very kind of control-y sort of color that's very focused on disrupting your opponent's plans and kind of generating tempo and card advantage. We actually saw that in the game that we just played with stuff like Search for Ascanta, allowing them to draw extra cards, Thief of Sanity, which disrupted my game plan by stealing my stuff, etc., etc. Black is good at removal. They have very, very good removal. Maybe the best removal. It's either white or black that has the best overall removal in the game. White tends to be more exile and board wipe focused, and black tends to be more single target but stronger removal. Lots of kill stuff or whatever. They often have a lot of kind of sacrifice themes where you sacrifice something to get something else, or you are happy with letting your creatures die, like this Doom Dissenter, for example, because when this guy dies, you get a stronger creature token to replace it. So you can couple that with something that says like this one, for example, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. So you cast this, you sacrifice your Doom Dissenter, you get a stronger thing to replace the Doom Dissenter, and you still get to draw 2 cards, just as an example. Black also often is very good at bringing stuff back from the graveyard. Things like Reassembling Skeleton that can just keep coming back forever and ever. Things like Isareth the Awakener that allows you to bring stuff back from your graveyard. Or there's tons and tons of examples of this. So black is good at targeted removal, bringing stuff back from the graveyard, and often has benefits for sacrificing its own creatures. Red is very straightforward. Red is all about damage, whether that's attacking with very aggressive creatures, like all these very kind of low-cost but fast creatures, or just direct damage, stuff like shock that just allows you to zap either an opponent's creature or even the opponent itself directly in the face. Red is all about just dealing damage. There's a joke that red players can't do math, but they can count to 20, and that's all that matters. Green, on the other hand, is very good at ramping up. So stuff like Llanowar Elves, which is essentially like playing an extra land. They're very good at generating lots of mana very quickly so they can get to their higher cost stuff much faster. And then they do that to ramp into the biggest, baddest creatures in the game. They have more really big creatures, like this Gigantosaurus that has 10 strength and 10 toughness. Or, for example, the aggressive mammoth that is an 8/8. Or Carnage Tyrant, or Grun, or you get the idea. Green is very much big creature stomp face colors. And it's actually a very fun. It's one of my favorites. Speaking of which, I don't know that I ever actually mentioned toughness and power. So basically, every creature card is going to have two numbers in the lower right. The first number is its power, and that's how much damage it can deal when it either attacks or blocks. And the second number is its toughness, which is how much damage it can take before it dies whenever it attacks or blocks. If a creature takes damage, its toughness basically resets at the end of every turn. So if it takes damage, but that damage is not enough to kill it, it will essentially recover to full health at the end of the turn. There's that, and I think that is all of the different colors, and that's a fairly good, fairly quick introduction to Magic the Gathering Arena. Still ended up being about half an hour long, but that was including a full game, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be creating a whole lot of videos of this game over the next, well, however long. There will be two other videos coming out that are kind of primers later today, one about kind of basic terminology, and then the other one about a lot of different abilities that creatures have. Like if you look at this one that says Defender, or this one that says Flying, or this one that says Ascend. We'll be talking about all of those. So there you go, guys. That is going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check that out as well. Otherwise, my friends, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.